There is permanent ice sitting directly on the equator. And underneath it, inside one single forest, half of every mountain gorilla left on Earth is waking up in the fog. Same country, same morning. Uganda, not 1 inch of coastline, straddling the equator in East Africa on a piece of land slightly bigger than Oregon. Winston Churchill called it the Pearl of Africa in a book from 1908, and the name stuck. 5 things that will change how you picture this place. 1. A mountain range on the equator with snow on top, and it is losing that snow fast. 2. One forest here holds roughly half the mountain gorillas on the planet. 3. A bird almost 5 feet tall that looks like a dinosaur nobody switched off. 4. You can buy a Rolex here for 50 cents and you eat it. 5. Half the population isn't 17 yet, but the king has held his throne for over 600 years. We start at water level, then we climb. You land at Entebbe around 7 in the morning, and the first thing that surprises you is what you don't feel. No wall of heat. The air is warm and soft, and it smells like red dirt that got rained on an hour ago. Then you look past the runway, and there's water stretching to the horizon, like an ocean. That's Lake Victoria. 26,800 square miles, the biggest lake in Africa, and the second biggest freshwater lake on Earth, behind only Lake Superior. And Uganda has no seacoast at all. The whole country runs about 93,000 square miles, a bit larger than Oregon. Inside that Africa's largest lake, the source of the longest river on Earth, and the continent's 3rd highest peak. And the climate is where Americans get it wrong. Uganda sits on the equator, but it also sits at an average of 3,600 feet. So most of the country stays between 70 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Basically May in California all year round. Now, remember that mountain range with snow on it? It's real. It's called the Rwenzori, and in the local Lukonzo language, the name means the place of snow. Margarita Peak tops out at 16,763 feet, 3rd highest in Africa. There is glacier ice up there 1 degree off the equator. But since the first measurements in 1906, this range has lost more than 90% of that ice. What's happening up there, and who still climbs it every week? I'll take you all the way to the top later. 2 more things before we meet the people. At Murchison Falls, the Nile gets squeezed from hundreds of feet wide into a rock gap 23 feet across, then drops. You hear it from half a mile off. And along the Kazinga Channel, hippos gather in one of the densest concentrations found anywhere on Earth. A country with no sea, water everywhere, a pearl literally. Over 50 ethnic groups live on a piece of land the size of Oregon, Bantu peoples in the south, Nilotic in the north. Men wear the kanzu, a long white robe, often under a suit jacket. Women wear the gomesi, a floor-length dress with sleeves that stand up in sharp peaks, tied with a wide sash. Now here's where it gets interesting. The Baganda, the largest group, are organized into 52 clans. They call them Ibika. Every clan has a totem, an animal, or a plant, and the rules are wonderfully strict. You cannot eat your own totem, and you cannot marry inside your own clan, even if you and that person have never met in your lives. When a Muganda introduces himself properly, he names his father, his grandfather, his clan, his totem. There's a phrase here, Ubuntu Bulamu. Uganda's version of Ubuntu, you become a person through other people. Sounds abstract until you see it work. You knock on a door at mealtime and a plate appears. Nobody asks where you're from. Nobody asks how long you're staying. And in the old Buganda system, two of the most powerful offices belong to women by design. The Nalinya, the king's sister, and the Namasole, the queen mother. Not honorary titles, real authority inside a state already running smoothly in the 1750s. Here's the number that reframes everything. Uganda's median age is around 16.9 years. Youngest in East Africa, among the youngest on Earth. Walk down a street in Kampala and most people passing you aren't old enough to drive in the United States. One phrase before we move, Oli Otya. It means, how are you? The answer is, Giendi. Try it, once you'll feel the whole street change temperature. So consider this my extra plate pulled up to the table for you. Tell me which country you're sitting in right now and what time it is there. Head 50 miles east from the lake, and the sound of the water changes. Not a roar, a hiss, a lot of water moving fast over rock. This is Jinja. This is the spot where in 1862 the explorer, John Hanning Speke, identified the source of the Nile and settled the loudest geographic argument of the Victorian era. From where you're standing, that water has 4,130 miles to go, through South Sudan, Egypt, and out into the Mediterranean. Further than New York to Los Angeles, with 1,400 miles left over. Stand at that edge for a second. The drop going past your shoe won't see Egypt for 3 months. These days, Jinja is the adventure capital of the country. Whitewater rafting, kayaking, and bungee jumping straight over the Nile. Every rapid has a name, and most of those names come with a story. But this river isn't the thing that makes people fly halfway around the world to get here. From the rapids, we go down, all the way down to swamp level, where a wooden canoe pushes through papyrus reeds taller than you are. Meet the shoebill, almost 5 feet tall, wingspan up to 8 feet, and a bill the size and shape of a wooden clog with a hook on the end. Birders call it the closest thing to a living dinosaur that still has feathers. It stands so still that tourists genuinely mistake it for a statue. Here's what nobody tells you about this place. That stillness isn't laziness, it's the entire hunting strategy. The shoebill stands motionless in the reeds for hours, waiting for a lungfish to come up for air, then strikes in a fraction of a second. It breeds slowly, usually only one chick makes it, and it survives only in intact papyrus wetland. Drain the swamp, and the bird is simply gone. Now the good part. Uganda has over 1,000 bird species, 1,000 inside an area the size of Oregon. So birders from Ohio and Texas fly 2 legs, climb into a wooden canoe at Mabamba Swamp before sunrise and pay real money to watch a bird do absolutely nothing. And because they keep coming, those papyrus swamps, very easy to drain and turn into farmland, suddenly have an economic reason to exist. The villagers around Mabamba run the boats and guide the tours. A bird that does nothing, saving a whole wetland by standing still. Leave the swamp and go up. In Uganda Power, always sits on a hill. The kingdom of Uganda was founded in the late 14th century. Oral tradition says the first Kabaka, the first king, was a man named Kintu, who arrived from the east with his clans. And there is still a king today, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II, the 36th Kabaka crowned in 1993. Now, if you thought that was interesting, look at how they engineered it to last. A child of the Kabaka takes the clan of the mother, not the father. So the king married into as many clans as possible, which meant all 52 had a live shot at producing a future king. Every clan had skin in the game. You want a coalition that holds for 6 centuries, that's how you build one. You can visit where all of them are buried. The Kasubi Tombs, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is an enormous domed structure built entirely from thatch poles and reeds by the clans who still hold the right to repair it. And the royal court had its own orchestra. The Ntenga, a set of drums tuned to actual pitches so you can play a melody on them, plus a harp and a one-string fiddle played with a bow. So hold on to that thought. The country with the youngest population on the planet is carrying a monarchy nearly 4 centuries older than the United States. Stay on the hills, but picture 7 at once. Kampala sits across 7 hills, 1.5 million people, 4.5 million across the metro. No subway, no tram. The whole place moves on boda's motorcycle taxis and Matata's 14-seat minibuses playing music at a generous volume. Morning goes like this. The call to prayer rolls off Old Kampala Hill. Church bells answer from the hill across. A boda swerves past a woman, frying chapati and cracking eggs onto a griddle. The air smells like charcoal smoke rain on red soil, jackfruit, and coffee. At night, the corners turn into grills, muchamo skewered meat over charcoal and gonja roasted plantain. Now drive 60 miles out. In the village, the day starts in the matoke garden behind the house. That's the banana plantation. Cooking happens over firewood. Everyone eats from shared dishes. And the big things, a house, a wedding, a funeral, get done by neighbors showing up. Out there, dark means dark, and the stars are ridiculous. Here's the very Ugandan part. Huge numbers of people work in Kampala, build a house back in the village, and go home on weekends. They don't call that a contradiction. They call it balance. We climb again, 7,000 feet into a forest that has been standing since before the last ice age. 6 in the morning. The fog is so thick you lose the person 3 steps ahead of you. The mud is over your ankles. The forest is officially called Bwindi Impenetrable, and that name is not decorative. The mountain gorilla, a full-grown male, a silverback, can weigh 400 pounds and stand over 5 feet tall. They exist in exactly 2 places on Earth. Bwindi holds roughly half of them. They eat stems, leaves, and bamboo shoots tens of pounds a day and live in family groups led by one silverback. Every night, they build a fresh nest, never reusing an old one, which is a gift for science. Counting abandoned nests is how researchers count gorillas. Now let that number sit for a second. In 1989, there were 620 mountain gorillas left. In 2010, 786. In 2018, 1,004. The 2025 to 2026 survey put them above 1,100, the highest count since anyone started counting. This is the only great ape on Earth whose numbers are going up. Every other one is falling. And much of that comes down to patient work. The Uganda Wildlife Authority's snare removal program cut wire traps in the forest from around 800 to nearly zero in 4 years. You get exactly 1 hour with a family. That's the rule. You stand there breathing hard, hair full of mist, and the silverback looks straight at you, decides you are not worth the effort, and goes back to chewing. 1 hour. That's it. But honestly, the thing that kept me awake in Uganda was much higher up than this forest. So that's us, halfway down the river. If that hour in Buwindi was worth something to you, drop me one word. Webi Ale, which means thank you in Luganda. Then hit subscribe and we'll run the second half together. Back down from the fog to street level, literally to the sidewalk. The Rolex, not the watch. It's a chapati fried flatbread wrapped around an omelette with tomato, onion, and cabbage. The name comes from rolled eggs said fast until it became Rolex. 25 to 50 cents. Made in front of you on a griddle that started at 6 in the morning and will still be running at midnight. Ginger Kampala and Fort Portal all insist their version is the correct one. Do not attempt to settle this. Then the other end of the scale. Luwombo chicken beef or groundnut sauce wrapped in banana leaves and steamed for hours. It came out of the royal kitchens of Buganda in the 1800s, and the leaf gives the meat a smoky taste you cannot fake in a pot. No proper kwanjula, the introduction ceremony happens without it. And matoke green bananas, steamed and mashed. Among the Baganda putting matoke in front of a guest is how you say, "I respect you," without saying it. Out of the city and the ground starts falling away beneath the river. Murchison Falls. The Nile arrives. Hundreds of feet wide, hits a wall of rock and gets forced through a gap 23 feet across. The entire volume of the longest river on Earth, squeezing through something narrower than your living room. You hear it long before you see it, and the spray goes up in a column visible from the boat. The park around it covers 1,500 square miles, the largest protected area in the country, and holds the biggest population of Nile crocodiles on the whole river. Then Kidepo Valley, far up in the northeast. Travel magazines keep listing it among Africa's most beautiful parks, and it stays one of the least visited. The night sky out there has almost no light pollution. And near Fort Portal, dozens of crater lakes sit between tea plantations, turquoise circles, each an old volcano that filled with water and went quiet. The whole country is the size of Oregon. Remember that. And now we go properly up, higher than everything you've seen so far combined. The ancient Greeks had a rumor about the mountains of the moon, a snow range in the middle of Africa that nobody in Europe believed was real. It took until the 20th century for outsiders to confirm it. The Rwenzori, 4 days of climbing, takes you through 4 different worlds. You start in rainforest, thick and dripping. Then bamboo so dense it feels like walking down a hallway. Then heather, but heather the size of trees, hung with moss. And then you arrive somewhere genuinely strange, fields of giant lobelia plants, standing as tall as street lamps, growing in cold fog at 11,000 feet. It looks less like Africa and more like a planet somebody invented. Margarita Peak, 16,763 feet. Third highest in Africa, more than 2,400 feet taller than Mount Rainier, and there is ice on top of it, right here on the equator. At 10,000 feet, the daytime temperature runs about 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, and at night it drops into the 30s. So yes, you will pack a down jacket for an equatorial country, And yes, you will absolutely need it. Stand up there for a second and think about this. You're on snow. The equator is less than an hour's walk downhill. Back down to the altitude of everyday life, the one with speakers, crowds, and bass. Kadongo Kamu, it literally means one small guitar. One person, one guitar, one long story, usually funny, usually with a moral hiding in it. Herman Basudi, Paulo Cafero, Dan Magula, names Ugandan parents still sing word for word. Then there's Eddie Kenzo, born in 1989 in Masaka, orphaned, young homeless. As a kid, spent years trying to get DJs to play his songs. He became the first Ugandan artist to win a BT award in 2015, the first ever nominated for a Grammy, and he was nominated again in 2026. The video that broke him featured the ghetto kids' children from Kampala, whose dancing went around the world. And in Jinja, there's Nejaniji, started in 2014 as an incubator for East African talent. Now, a pilgrimage for underground electronic music fans worldwide. There's also the Kabaka birthday run, tens of thousands of people running to mark the king's birthday and raise money for community health. Here's the thing. In a country with a median age of 16, music isn't an entertainment industry. It's the main language. Step off the stage around the back of the house to what actually feeds this country. Agriculture employs roughly 4/5 of the working population, and the crop at the center of it is coffee. In the 2024 to 2025 financial year, Ugandan coffee earned a record $2.4 billion, about 22% of everything the country exports, and the largest coffee export volume in Africa. But that's not the number that got me. 3.5 million smallholder families depend on coffee, and most farm under 2.5 acres, smaller than 2 football fields. Exports to the United States passed 19,000 tons in 2024, meaning your coffee this morning may well have started in somebody's backyard outside Mbale. Then the most Ugandan job of all. Over 200,000 boda drivers work in Kampala alone. The name comes from border to border. In the 80s, these were men on bicycles hauling goods across the Kenyan frontier. Now, there are apps, helmets, and accident cover, a transport system the public built for itself. But there's one number in Uganda I've been saving for the end, and it has nothing to do with money. Come back with me to the base of the Rwenzori, where the meltwater comes down. The ice up there has shrunk more than 90% since 1906, and around 5 million people in the foothills rely on that meltwater through the dry season. So communities started replanting trees to hold moisture in the soil and switching to drought-tolerant varieties. Second, no coastline. Every import comes overland more than 700 miles from Mombasa. So instead of arguing with geography, Uganda keeps building washing stations and roasting plants at home, holding more of the value inside the country. Third, the power flickers in the cities. So solar took off, and the grid keeps pushing into districts that were completely off it a decade ago. Now a person. Enoch Biwambale is a Bakonzo mountain guide in the Rwenzori. He walks clients toward Margarita, points out 3 surviving patches of ice on Mount Stanley, and tells them plainly that a glacier used to sit right there. Then the next week, he climbs it again. And he keeps climbing, because every group he brings up is a reason for the park to exist, and an income for the whole village below. So the ice is going. The nearest port is 700 miles away, and the lights don't always stay on. Why does almost nobody want to leave? Part of it is the ground itself. Across most of Uganda, you can push a cassava, cutting into the soil, and it grows. The weather behaves like spring all year. Part of it is that nobody here falls very far. 52 clans, 3 generations under one roof, who know every kid by name. That net shows up in no statistic, but it catches people. And then there's the number I've been holding back. Uganda hosts around 2 million refugees, more than any other country in Africa. Over 1 million are children. But the number isn't the remarkable part. The method is. Under the 2006 Refugee Act, refugees here can move freely, work, legally go to school. And this is the part that stops people. They are given agricultural land to farm. Bidibidi in Yumbi district covers roughly 90 square miles, about the footprint of Birmingham, England. More than 235,000 people are rebuilding their lives inside it. Not a tent camp. Villages with fields, schools, and power lines. Agnes Batio is 32, and she arrived from South Sudan. Back home, she once met a woman who worked in construction and knew immediately that was what she wanted to be. In Uganda, she got the chance. Today, she supervises a building site in Bidibidi, running a crew of 30 refugees and 20 Ugandans. She describes it as the point where she started feeling like herself again. Ugandans have a word for this. Ubuntu bulamu, you become a person through other people. Here, that isn't a nice line painted on a wall. It's national policy. Before I let you go, the practical part. Timing. 2 dry seasons, June through August, and December through February. Those are your gorilla months, firmer trails, less of a mud wrestle. The wet seasons bring lower prices, fewer people, and landscapes that look artificially green. Money. Budget travel runs about $100 to $150 a day. Guest houses, shared transport, local restaurants. A plate of rice, beans, and matoke costs $1.50 to $4. Mid-range runs $250 to $500 a day, with a lodge and a private driver. High-end starts near 1,000 tented camps on the windy forest edge. 2 costs to plan separately. A gorilla permit is $800 per trek, included in nothing else. Book 6 to 12 months ahead in peak season. Park entry runs $20 to $40 a day. Paperwork, and this has changed. Uganda no longer offers visa on arrival for most travelers. You apply online in advance. $50 valid 90 days. Combining Uganda with Kenya and Rwanda. Take the East Africa tourist visa at $100. A yellow fever certificate is required, no exceptions, and your passport needs 2 blank pages. Apply at least 2 weeks out. Small rules. No plastic bags in the parks. Don't photograph military installations or airports. Wear the helmet on a boda and book through an app. Cash and mobile money go further than cards. Tip guides 10 to 15%. And pack a warm layer, yes, on the equator. That's the paperwork. Now let me tell you what actually stays with you. Uganda is the smell of rain landing on red dirt. It's a chapati pan hissing at 6 in the morning. It's a silverback looking straight through you and deciding you're not a problem. It's ice sitting on the equator and an extra plate appearing for whoever just knocked. People have called it the Pearl of Africa since 1908. But pearls are beautiful and quiet, and this place is loud, young, and does not sit still for a second. If you ever set foot here, you'll leave carrying something you can't quite name. Not because of what you saw, because you never once ate alone. Thank you for walking this red dirt road with me. Hit subscribe because the next stretch takes us to Madagascar, an island where roughly 9 out of every 10 species exist nowhere else on Earth. I'm saving you a seat. Webale Nanyo, thank you very much. From Uganda.